Hello, welcome to my little trip down road testing memory lane. Thank you for all your questions and comments as always. Thanks for your nice comments on the blast from the past videos where we go back and look at old MCNs. It's really good fun for me to do that as well. I've been on my travels. I've been to the launch of some new KTMs in Almeria. 3 bikes in the same launch. The 390 Duke, the 990 Duke and the 1390 Duke R. So needless to say, that was quite a fun launch. And you can read all about what those bikes are like in MCN soon and on video. So today I thought I'd just talk about tyres, because I've got a lot of people contact me wanting to know what kind of tyres to put on their bikes. I've ridden on loads of tyres in nearly 22 years of road testing and racing. I've been on loads of tyre launches, I've done loads of tyre comparison tests. I've ridden on lots of original equipment tyres that come on standard bikes. Most of them are subpar. OE tyres just aren't as good as the replacement tyres that you buy, even if they look like they're the same model. The OE are normally a little bit different and not generally as good. And I know what tyres I like. I can almost recognise what brand of tyre is on the bike without even looking. After doing blind tyre tests, each of the main manufacturers' tyres have got a real distinct feel. They really, really have. But it would be unfair to give out any advice on exactly the brand of tyre to buy, because even though in my heart I kind of know which are the best, without proving it with a proper tyre test would be unfair to other manufacturers. So what I can talk about is just as important is the type of tyre you need for certain applications, and talk about some manufacturers' tyres sort of character without saying if they're good or not. So let's crack into the first question, which is from Steve Williamson. Stephen, hello Stephen, thanks for your question. Loving these videos, great entertainment and insight, thank you very much. While I'm here then, what tyres would you recommend for a track bike Daytona 675R Inters, around 156 around Cadwell last time out? I've only ever run Pirelli Diablo Rosso Corsa 2s as they just worked, but wonder if I'm missing out something more track focused. Well, good question, great bike, great track, great time. So Pirelli Diablo Rosso Corsa 2s, if you talk about there being really kind of 4 rungs of road tyres, pure road tyres. You've got sports touring tyres, which are basically all-weather tyres, which last a long time. You've got all-round sports tyres, which just are good at everything. You could do track days on them. They're good in the wet. They're good on the road. They last pretty well. Then at the top, there's track day tyres, road compound track day tyres, which are really sticky, but don't need tyre warmers and work in a big temperature window, and almost as fast as a pure race tyre, near as damn it. And then between the sports and the track day, you've kind of got this very fast road stroke track tyre, and the Diablo Rosso Corsa 2 falls into that category. So I would say you've chosen the right tyre there. If you wanted to kind of stay with Pirelli and get a little bit more grip and confidence, that tyre's been replaced now by the Rosso Corsa 4. We did the launch of that a couple of years ago at Mugello and on the road, and they feel like super Corsas now. The levels come right up. Or if you want to go a step further, go for a road compound track day tyre. So again, if you want to stay with Pirelli, it would be the new version 4, the V4 Pirelli Diablo Super Corsa, and make sure it's the SP compound. The SP compound means it's a road compound. And then there's SCs, SC1, SC2, SC3, and they're racing compound, and they need tyre warmers. They need to match the temperature of the track, and they wear out faster. They degrade more through heat cycles. So you want something for track days that you can ride on the road, let some air out the tyres when you get to the track, which is important, because when you're putting a lot of load through tyres, the air inside heats up and the tyres expand and you lose your contact patch. You go from having a palm contact patch to a thumb contact patch, so that's why you should drop your pressures. But equally on the road, you should keep road pressures, because as soon as you drop the pressures, then suddenly that nice profile tyre that a manufacturer's giving you with their tyre suddenly goes squash, goes flat. So you don't need to drop pressures on the road. It's kind of a bit of an urban myth that you let the air out the tyres to give you more grip. Well, it's kind of the interface between the tyre and the tarmac is a chemical reaction. So yeah, if you let tyres down, you'll have more of a contact patch, but really that's overkill for the road. You want nice steering as well. So so in answer to your question, you've got the right tyre. If you want to go newer, get the version 4. And if you want to go a little bit stickier but still have a good road tyre, go for the Supercorsa SP. So thank you very much. Next is from Pete A. Love your video chats. Thank you very much. Read Tyres, I have a question for you. I've just received my 2023 RR. Lucky man. And it came with Dunlops from the factory apparently. BMW using Dunlops across their range now. I appreciate your thoughts on preferred tyre on an RR. Thanks, Pete. Well, yeah, manufacturers, they go in kind of fits and starts with original equipment tyres. I suppose it depends what tyre company has helped them develop the bike along the way. Quite often bike manufacturers partner up with tyre manufacturers. They build special tyres for them, which are generally cheaper, so they don't have to put the prices of the bike up or make more profit on the bike or whatever. And yeah, BMWs go through, you know, you can see one BMW might have Metzeler's, one might have Continentals, might have Dunlops, but generally, if you've got an OE tyre on your bike, you'll see a big increase in performance by changing it to a replacement tyre. And the definition of a replacement tyre is one that you buy from a tyre dealer, from a shop. It's the proper tyre. OE tyres have generally got codes on them. Like say, for example, a Dunlop Sport Smart 4 would have like an E or something like that, just to denote it's for that bike. And generally, if you were to buy that tyre from a shop, because it's kind of more of a limited kind of run of a replacement tyre, it's a lot more expensive. So the proper replacement tyres are cheaper and better. So what are my thoughts on preferred tyre for the RR? Well, it depends what you're going to use it for. If you're never going to go on the track, then I would just say a good all-round sports tyre would be perfect for that bike. The level of general sports tyres are just very good. You know, anything from Bridgestone S23 to Metzeler M9, Sporttech RR to Pirelli Diablo Rosso 4, those kind of tyres. Any latest generation tyre from any of the main manufacturers are going to be good. Or you could go a little bit further up and go for that rung in between sports and track day. And there's not actually many tyre companies that are in that space. It's Pirelli with the Corsa 4, Rosso Corsa 4, and Dunlop with the Sport Smart TT. So yeah, go for a good sports or a good fast road track day tyre. I would say that putting a full-on track day tyre would be a little bit overkill if you're only going to go for the road. But if you are going to do a lot of track days, then yeah, go for a road compound track tyre, like a Metzeler Racetech K3 or the Pirelli Supercorsa SP, that kind of thing. And yeah, if you replace anything with OE tyres, you're going to see a step forward anyway. So let me know how you get on. Let me know what you chose. Thanks very much. Next one is from Mr. Deep Sea Dweller. Deep Sea Dweller. Thanks for your question. Hi Neezy, only started riding 3 years ago when I turned 50. Good man. I progressed to the fastest group, red, on my K67. That's an S1000RR, the latest generation, 2019 on. And tried to do at least one track day per month here in Sydney, where I live. Lucky. So that's Sydney Motorsports Park, isn't it? Formerly Eastern Creek. However, I've now hit a plateau and I'm finding it very difficult to reduce my lap times. Since I ride the bike to and from the track, I'm stuck with the street tyres, Supercorsa SP or Rosso Corsa 4, and often without warmers. Some people tell me I need to move to slicks to progress much further, but I've seen plenty of much faster riders than me on street tyres, so I don't think that is my problem. Do you think I'm doing too many track days is counterproductive? maybe they're not special enough for me, so I'm not putting in 110% effort every time. I'm not sure. Well, that's a good question. I mean, that's something that we all experience. We kind of plateau, our riding plateaus. I think you're bang on with the tyre choice, Super Corsa SP or Rosso Corsa 4. I think that's perfect. Yeah, often without tyre warmers. You don't need tyre warmers for those tyres because they work in such a big operating window. You generally just need tyre warmers when you've got a racing tyre that's designed to work at a certain temperature. And if they fall below that, then they'll degrade, they'll rough up, they just won't have the grip and won't turn as well as they should, and all the rest of it. So you've got exactly the right tyres there. I don't think you're doing too many track days. You know, if you're not putting in 100%, 110% effort, you don't have to be biting the screen to be fast on a motorbike. I think it would purely come down to probably a little bit of riding technique. So, you know, if you're able to immerse yourself in some, you know, go back to basics, go right back to basics. And, you know, you'll probably read and see a lot of things you already know, but you'll see the odd light bulb moment where you'll go, oh, I need to do that. You know, check your body position, check when you're letting go of the brakes and how you're turning the bike, check your lines, check when you're getting on the throttle, all these kind of things. So hopefully there'll be some kind of track day instructors at the Sydney Motorsports Park. But if there's not, you know, there's lots of things you can read. I've said it many times before, Simon Crayfar's Moto Voodoo kind of riding system, if you like, is probably the best thing to go and look at. It kind of deals with riding techniques in kind of a modern style, you know, especially with your bike, with the super bike. That would be perfect for you, you know, how you approach corners, how you go through them and how you come out. And once once that clicks in, then you'll be faster without trying, and the tyres you'll be on will be more than good enough. So give that a go and let me know how you get on. And thanks for your question. Next one is from Jay Hooks. Hi Nevesy, love your content. One of my favourite channels. Thank you very much. A lot of competition out there. I recently bought a Triumph Scrambler 900 EFI, lovely bike, and it has Continental TKC 80s fitted. Love the look of them, and they seem to be pretty decent for grip. I'm a bit nervous to push sometimes because they're knobbly tyres. What's your view on knobbly tyres and their limitations for road riding? Good question. They're lovely tyres and they look great, don't they? And they've got a good reputation for grip off road, and while still being pretty decent on road. But you only have to look at a set of knobblies to know there's going to be a limitation. So there's going to be less rubber on the ground compared to a normal road tyre, so there's going to be less grip. The big rubber blocks will move around compared to a normal tyre, so there'll be less stability. I've tried quite knobbly tyres on a long-term test bike I had recently compared to nice smooth tyres, and the MPG went down because the tyres caused more drag and the tyres were very noisy, lots of road noise. It was like driving an old-fashioned Range Rover or Land Rover down the road, or being beside a truck. The road noise was really strong. But manufacturers have still managed to make knobbly tyres grippy and pretty decent for the road. But at the end of the day, they're going to be a compromise. So, you know, I'd say for that style of bike, those TKCs, I can never say it, are probably perfect, because you're not going to be going through corners with the pegs down and you know, trail braking right up to apexes and all that kind of stuff. So I would say that those tyres are absolutely fine and you'll really enjoy them. But knobblies are hugely compromised compared to normal road tyres. But that's a really good question, because adventure bikes and, you know, retro scramblers and all that kind of stuff are really, really popular now. If I own one, I'll try and find a more road-based tyre, unless I was actually going to go off-road. But it depends. If you really like the look of them, they're going to be absolutely fine. So, brilliant question. Thank you very much. Next is from Mr. P Ninja. Hello. Thanks for the question. Quick question about the front end. I had a set of Dunlop Alpha 13s on my ZX10. The recommended tyre pressure for those tyres was 32 psi. On this video, you sent a link to the video. I'm going to link to the front tyre was about 28 cold. Anyway, as you can see in the video, the front tyre folds. Well, it felt like as it suddenly dips down while leaning over, so I had to stand the bike up. Anyway, here's the vid. Well, thanks for your question. I watched the video, but it's kind of pointing back, so I can't really see what's going on with the bike. But yeah, if you sort of felt the bike, just go. Well, number one, I would say that Alpha 13s are more for smaller bikes, aren't they? Rather than sort of big, heavy super bikes. So that's number one thing I'd say. Number two, if you think that the recommended pressure for most sports tyres, most kind of sports tyres, sports touring, any of those I mentioned before, is generally 36 psi cold. The 28 cold is very low. So, you know, the tyre's got no structure in it. It's not going to turn very well. It's going to feel bleh. Even though the recommended pressure is 32. And I think the reason the recommended pressure 32 is so low is because they are generally designed for lighter, slower bikes. So my answer would be is number one, try the correct pressures, because correct tyre pressures are everything, especially for the road. Don't go lower than they recommend. And when it's time to change, go for a normal sports tyre for that bike. If you're just going to ride your ZX10R on the road, I would recommend a good all-round sports tyre. Like I say, the Sporttech M9RR, Metzeler, the Rosso 4 Pirelli, the S22 Bridgestone, that kind of thing, or S23 as it is now. And I think you'll have a lot more confidence from the front end. I haven't got a lot of experience with those Alpha 13s, just that I know that I've been in racing paddocks where a lot of the smaller bikes have raced on them. So probably something I wouldn't put on a ZX10. But I might be wrong, but let me know how you get on. And if anyone else has got any experience on Alpha 13s, it would be good to hear from you, just to add some knowledge to the old memory bank. So thanks for your question. Next one is from A Man Astray. I hope you've found what you're looking for. Hey up, Neesy. Really enjoying the Q&A format, as it often gives the, oh, I'd never realised that moment. Thank you very much. Since you're a self-confessed tyre nerd, yep, I have a question on tyres for touring. I'm planning a trip out to the Alps next year, and I was wondering what your thoughts were on always putting fresh rubber on the bike before a big tour, or squeezing out those last 2,000 plus miles on the existing set, when you'd probably go past the wear marks or even go down to the canvas to spend money on a new tyre while abroad. Ask me how I know. Best regards, G. Well, thanks very much. Yeah, I mean, you've answered your own question there. Before you do any big trip, make sure all your consumables are as new as possible. Make sure you're not going to run into your oil change service. Make sure you've got good enough brake pads to last the whole trip. And most importantly, make sure you've got enough tyre, because, you know, once you start getting down towards the wear marks, most tyres start to square off, even though they're still actually legal. So, you know, with squared off tyres, the bike's not going to steer as nice. It's going to be awkward to get onto its side. There'll be a kind of a lump before, like a ledge, before you turn in. And generally, the bike just won't be as nice to ride. And then, you know, when it does rain, even though the tyres are still at their legal limit, you know, they're not going to disperse water as well. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation. And generally, unfortunately, tyres aren't like a stick of rock. They're not the same all the way down, although they try to be. They generally start losing their superpowers as they get worn out. Because if you take it to the extreme, if you've got a racing tyre is knackered after 2 or 3 times of using it, because the heat cycles destroy the tyre performance, because it's like putting the tyres back into the oven where they came from, where they were cured. For example, some race compound tyres, the difference between compound A and compound B might be the amount of time it's spent in the oven in the factory. You know, then you start putting it in the oven again, tyre warmers, and riding it, you start curing it more, and the tyre performance goes off. With road tyres, they're designed to sort of withstand heat cycles. They don't get affected as much, but they do very, very slightly. So when you get towards the end of a tyre's life, it's not going to perform. It's not going to steer as well. It's not going to be as good in the wet. And then obviously if it does wear right down and it starts getting dangerously low, then you're going to have to replace your tyre when you get back. I don't think a worn out tyre is any more susceptible to punctures really. The tyres are pretty strong, although obviously that makes some difference. In actual fact, one of the tyre manufacturers told me that you're more likely to get a puncture on a brand new set of tyres because where the grooves are so sharp, it's easy for the front tyre to pick up nails or whatever and throw it to the back tyre. So that's why quite a lot of times you get punctures on brand new back tyres. That's what he told me. I don't know if it's true or not, but I know a lot of people, me included, have had punctures on brand new tyres, so there might be some truth in it. So yeah, put as new a rubber as you can on before you go on a big 2,000-mile trip. But I hope you got another one planned, and I hope you have a good time. Thanks very much for your question. Next is from Stephen Spiteri Zunkus. Thanks for your question. Question about my new Triumph Street Triple, if I may. I'm planning a trip to Switzerland this summer, and whilst there I may encounter rain. People are telling me that the supercourses that the bike come with are not good in the rain, and also they might not make the whole trip I'll be doing, close to 4,000 kilometres. I've done the same trip with Bridgestone S21s and 22s and Pirelli Diablo 4s on a previous bike, an MT9 SP, and had no issues. So I could go with those tyres, but maybe you could suggest a better tyre that fits the dynamic of the Street Triple better. Maybe the Metzeler M9RRs. Yeah, great question. Yeah, generally the more focused a tyre gets, the less good it is in the wet. So when I talk about focused tyres, you're talking about the actual compound of the tyre, and you're talking about the amount of grooves in the tyres to get rid of rain. So a supercourser, if the temperature is pretty decent, isn't too bad in the wet on the road. You know, you're not leaning to the edge where there's no tread or no grooves. People keep telling me off for calling the grooves tread, but that's what we call them. This generic, isn't it? The tread is the actual black bit, is the compound. But anyway, there's no grooves running up to the edge. So, you know, if you lean over on a supercourser right over, you'll crash in the wet. But in normal conditions, a supercourser would be fine, but it's not really the best touring tyre because you'll be wearing a good tyre out that you never use the best of. You're not using its superpowers. So for a bike like the Street Triple, which is quite light, it isn't too powerful, and you're going to do that kind of mileage, then the kind of tyres you've been using before are perfect. The sports tyres, the good all-round sports tyres. So yeah, you mentioned the S21s and 22s. They've been replaced by 23s now. Diablo 4s, yes. The M9RR, yes. So they're both new generation tyres. The difference between Pirellis and Metzlers generally is that even though they're built by the same company and they're developed by the same test team, the Metzlers have got more of a kind of plusher, more road-friendly kind of feel about them. They warm up a little bit faster. They've got really nice kind of neutral steering. Then you jump on a Pirelli and they're generally stiffer ride, slightly sharper steering, don't warm up quite as fast. The differences are small, but when you ride them back to back, you really notice those two things. So in answer to your question, get a good, solid, all-round new generation sports tyre. But great question. Thank you very much. Right, two more. This one's from Matt Jones, 351. All right, Neezy, got a tyre question for you. Hello there, thank you. What would you choose between the Dunlop Sportsmart TT and the Pirelli Diablo Rosso Corsa 4? I'm an Intus track day rider who does a yearly trip to northern Spain riding an 04 R6. So I need something that I can handle mixed conditions but also give plenty of confidence on track. Been running the Sport Smart Mark 3s up until now, which have been brilliant for moving through novices, but was interested to hear your thoughts. Heard Rosso Corsas can get a little greasy when being really pushed on track, but that's probably above my skill level. Keep up the great work. Been a long time fan of your content. Well, thank you very much. So the Sportsmart TT and the Diablo Rosso Corsa 4 are those tyres that sit between sports and track day. So, you know, if if you're going to do some fast road riding and track days, that's perfect. If you're going to do, I would probably say they're overkill. If you're going to do a trip to northern Spain, I would say, you know, one of those good solid all-round sports tyres, new generation sports tyres, would probably be better for the job. They've got probably 90% more grip than you'd ever need on the road. They're going to last a decent amount of time. I mean, on an 04 R6 out of a sports tyre, you're going to easily get 3, 4, 5,000 miles out of the rear, depending on how you ride. And they're going to be brilliant for fast road riding. And they'll be good for a track day. You know, if it depends, you balance your ratio of track days to road. If you're just going to do one track day and loads of road, then maybe you've got to sacrifice a bit for the track day to have good road tyres. So I'd say a good sports tyre would be perfect for you on track. If you did want that little bit more grip from a Sport Smart TT or Rosso Corsa 4, then you're going to sacrifice a little bit of mileage out of it. You're going to sacrifice a little bit of wet weather performance, but not a lot. And that's going to give you loads and loads of grip for the track, and you don't need tyre warmers again. As to which is the best between them, I haven't done a back-to-back comparison. I've ridden on both of them a lot, but the only thing I would say is that the Pirelli is the newer generation tyre. The Sport Smart is quite old now, but they're both really, really good tyres. So yeah, your choice is between those really. Yeah, the Sport Smart's been out for a lot of years now, and the Pirelli is pretty new, so that kind of answers your question there. But I'm sure Dunlop have got something up their sleeve to replace it soon. But great question, thank you very much. Let me know how you get on. Oh, and Rosso Corsa's getting a little bit greasy when pushed on track. No, they don't. We did the launch of the Pirelli Diablo Rosso Corsa 4 at Mugello on loads of super bikes, and they felt like super Corsas, to be honest. They've kind of moved on a level, and that was in real big heat, you know, probably track temperatures of 40, 50 degrees. So no, they don't get greasy, they're fine. Right, and finally, it's a big one. From Ginger Punk 2. Hello again, Mr. Nees. I bloody love your channel. Wait anxiously for each new vid. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. As there is always gold in each one. I have a question for you, which probably doesn't warrant a response on video, about tyres. I'm going to answer it anyway. I've been desperately looking for information regarding the wet weather performance of the Diablo Rosso 4 Corsa. I'm looking to get new rubber on the track focus machine and live in the UK where the last 8 out of 10 track days were wet to some capacity. I don't have the option to grab more wheels right now for wet dedicated track days, etc. So I want the best I can get that will handle wet tracks. I was looking at the straight Rosso 4, but unsure if they're going to be enough for the track. I'm probably near the top of novice at the mo and feel like I need some more confidence on the edge, which is why tyres are causing me such a huge time sink in research. I was considering S23 battle axe Bridgestones as well, but really like the Pirelli profile feel. If the Rosso 4 Corsa can handle the wet enough, then it'll be my first choice, unless you can recommend anything else. I was looking at Michelin Power 6s, but there isn't much info about those at the moment. Thanks for the awesome content and advice, tips and stories. You're a ledge. Thank you very much. Wow. You tied yourself up in knots there. Yeah. You know what? I personally would, we're all different, aren't we? I generally wouldn't venture out on a wet track, on a track day. You know, there's not much point. You know, I do a lot of racing in the wet. I quite like the wet. You know, if you've got the right tyres. We used to instruct at the Ron Haslam School in the wet. We basically used to have sports touring tyres on all the Fireblades because you needed one tyre that would work in all different conditions through midsummer to winter without having to change tyres. So we generally use Bridgestone sports touring tyres, and they were really, really good in the wet and in the dry. But if I had my own bike, I would never really choose to go out on a wet track day on a sports tyre like you're talking about. So really the best road tyre for a wet track day is a sports touring tyre. But then, you know, like a Michelin Power 6 would be brilliant around the track in the wet. But you know, the difference between staying on and not staying on a wet track is so fine. There's no margin. You're either on or off it. And yeah, I mean, splashing around in the wet on the track can be fun, but my tyre choice would be more towards having fun in the dry and not compromising my dry time really. So yeah, sports touring tyres are brilliant in the wet, and they're okay in the dry, but you're going to get pretty greasy pretty quickly. What bike are you on? You don't say, do you? No, you don't say. Probably everyone's shouting now because I've already read it out. But yeah, the Rosso Corsa 4s would be okay in the wet. You know, you can ride round on a Super Corsa in the wet, but you've got to be so careful. That's the problem. And some tracks are really greasy in the wet. Some sections of track are greasy in the wet. Some patches are greasy in the wet. And you've only got to hit one of those, and a road tyre is just not going to work quick enough. So if I were you, for me, if it rained at a track day, I just simply wouldn't go out. Because the other thing with the wet on a track, when you're pushing the bike, you need to soften the suspension as well. You need to make the bike feel more compliant. You need more weight transfer to help the tyres dig in. So the whole thing's like a big messy compromise if you go out in the wet. I would just look at the best tyres you can for dry track, and then if it does rain, just go and poodle round basically if you really want to go out in the wet. So depending on the bike, you've got those Rosso 4 Corsas are probably the best fast road track day kind of tyre option at the moment really, I suppose, before you start going into Super Corsa SPs. So that would be my advice to you. Judge it all for the dry, and then if it's wet, just kind of go around really carefully and bring the bike home in one piece. So yes, so there's loads and loads more tyre questions. If you thought that was helpful, let me know and I'll do some more. But in the meantime, thank you again for watching, and stay tuned for more videos like this coming very soon.